A revolver bought before 1988, maybe inherited, could be worth serious money today. This video covers 10 pre-1988 revolvers that are now suddenly worth a fortune. Let's find out if you're holding on to one. Number 10. Python revolvers made before 1969. To know which Python revolvers actually matter, we have to go back to the first ones made. Colt introduced the Python in 1955, and for the first decade and a half of production, every single one was hand-fitted by a small team of trained gunsmiths at the Hartford factory. That process doesn't exist anymore. The forcing cone was hand-lapped to the barrel. The trigger was stoned and fitted by hand to tolerances that Colt's later production lines never matched. But then 1969 arrived, and the economics of that process became impossible to justify. The hand-fitting era ended quietly, with no announcement. Most buyers never noticed, but the collectors who examined both generations side by side noticed immediately. The bluing on pre-1969 examples is a different animal entirely. Colt called it royal blue. It's a deep, almost mirror polish finish applied over carefully polished steel, a process that required hours of hand polishing before the metal ever touched the tank. Post-1969 Pythons are still excellent revolvers, but they are not this. A verified pre-1969 Python in 95% or better condition cleared $7,500 at Rock Island Auction in 2023. Box and Papers pushed that number past $10,000 without hesitation. Check the serial number. Pythons manufactured before approximately serial 30,000 fall inside that pre-1969 window. That's your starting point. Number 9. The Short Barrel 4-inch Model 29. Everyone thinks they know the Model 29 because of Dirty Harry. But the gun Clint Eastwood pointed at the camera in 1971 is not the gun most collectors are actually chasing. The Short Barrel 4-inch Model 29, pin barrel, recessed cylinder, is the version that matters most right now, and most people walk right past it. Here's what that means in practice. Before 1982, Smith & Wesson pinned every barrel to the frame with a cross pin visible at the front of the cylinder gap. They also recessed each chamber mouth so the cartridge rim sat flush and fully supported. Both features were eliminated in 1982 as cost-cutting measures. The pinned barrel isn't just a cosmetic detail, it affects how the barrel indexes to the frame under recoil. And experienced shooters will tell you the difference is measurable in group size at distance. But then something happened that nobody predicted. Collectors who understood the mechanical difference between the two generations started buying every pinned and recessed example they could find. Prices began moving in 2015 and haven't stopped. The 4-inch barrel configuration is the one to understand specifically. The 6.5-inch version is what most people recognize from the film. But Clint Eastwood actually used a 6-inch barrel on set, and the 4-inch was always the rarest factory configuration in the Model 29 lineup, ordered far less frequently than the longer barrels. Law enforcement agencies occasionally specified it for plainclothes and supervisory carry, which means documented department examples exist and carry a provenance premium when they surface. A pre-1982 Model 29 with 4-inch barrel, pinned and recessed, in 90% or better condition, cleared $2,400 at Rock Island in 2024. Matching box and cleaning rod, double that number. Serial numbers below N750000. Put you in the pre-1982 production window. Start there. Now, I just want to take a second to ask if everyone who is watching can subscribe so I can keep making these videos for you all and we hit the goal of 2,000 subscribers. Now, most people assume the Model 19 is a budget alternative to the Model 27. That assumption is costing them real money. The Model 19 was designed in direct collaboration with Bill Jordan, one of the most decorated Border Patrol shooters in American history. And it was his specific input that shaped the K-frame .357 into the most widely adopted duty revolver of the 20th century. But Jordan did not just influence the design. He specified the handling characteristics, the sight radius, and the balance point. The result was a revolver that major law enforcement agencies across the country adopted as standard issue through the 1970s. The K-frame platform the Model 19 sits on was Smith & Wesson's medium frame, lighter than the N-frame Model 27 and Model 29, which made it more practical for all-day carry. That weight advantage is precisely why police departments chose it over the heavier N-frame guns and why it remained in active service longer than any other Smith & Wesson duty revolver of that era. But then, 1982 arrived, and Smith & Wesson removed the pinned barrel and recessed cylinder from the Model 19 line, exactly as they did across their entire catalog. What that cutoff created was an unintentional collector tier. Model 19s made before 1982 with pinned barrels are now being pulled out of police surplus channels and estate sales at a pace the market has not seen before. The 2.5-inch snub-nose variant is the configuration driving the highest returns. It was always the least common barrel length in the Model 19 lineup, ordered primarily for plain clothes and detective use. A verified Model 19 made before 1982 in a 2.5-inch configuration with original grips cleared $1,800 at Rock Island in 2023. 4-inch examples in excellent condition are clearing $1,200 to $1,500 consistently. The serial number window you are looking for runs below approximately 2K prefix, and that puts you inside the pinned and recessed production era. The single-action Army has been in continuous production since 1873. That fact alone makes most people assume all of them are roughly equivalent. They are not. Colt produced the single-action Army in 3 distinct generations, and the first generation, running from 1873 to 1941, is a completely different asset class from everything that came after. But within that first generation, pre-war production before 1940 carries a premium that casual collectors consistently underestimate. Here's the mechanical reason. Pre-war single-action Army revolvers were built on frames designed to accommodate black powder cartridge pressures, with fitting tolerances and handwork that post-war production never replicated. The color case hardening on pre-war examples was applied using a bone and charcoal process that produces a specific mottled pattern, vivid oranges, blues, and purples, that modern gas carburizing simply cannot duplicate. But then the war came. Colt retooled entirely for military production, and when single-action Army production resumed in 1956, the gun that came back was mechanically similar but not identical. The serial numbers tell the story. First-generation single-action Army production ran from serial number 1 through approximately 357,859. Examples from before 1940 fall below approximately serial number 355,000. Matching numbers, frame, barrel, cylinder, and grip frame, all sharing the same serial. Is the authentication detail that separates a $4,000 gun from a $15,000 gun. A verified pre-war single-action Army in .45 Colt with 70% or better original finish and matching numbers cleared $14,500 at Rock Island in 2024. Cavalry configuration with original finish and documented provenance has crossed $40,000. Most Ruger collectors will tell you the Blackhawk is undervalued. They're right, but only about a specific version. When Ruger introduced the Blackhawk in 1955, it used a traditional single-action mechanism requiring the hammer to be placed on a half-cock notch for safe cylinder loading. That design carried 3 visible screws on the left side of the frame. But then, in 1973, following product liability pressure, Ruger introduced the transfer bar safety system, a significant internal redesign that eliminated the half-cock requirement entirely. The new guns lost one of the 3 frame screws in the process. That's your authentication detail. 3 screws on the left side of the frame means old model, produced before 1973. 2 screws means new model. The old model Blackhawk is a fundamentally different firearm mechanically, and the collector market has known this for decades. But the broader public hasn't caught up. That gap is closing fast. Old model Blackhawks in .357 Magnum are the most common configuration and the starting point for the category. But the variants driving serious auction results are the flat-top models produced from 1955 to 1962, before Ruger added the adjustable rear sight frame, and the .44 Magnum Blackhawk produced from 1956 to 1963. A verified flat-top Blackhawk in .44 Magnum with 95% or better finish cleared $3,800 at Rock Island in 2023. 3-screw .357 examples in excellent condition are consistently clearing $900 to $1,400, multiples of what they sold for a decade ago. The Colt Official Police looks like a standard service revolver. That's exactly the problem and exactly why it's being overlooked right now. Colt introduced the Official Police in 1927 as a direct evolution of the Army Special, and for the next 4 decades, it was the dominant law enforcement revolver in America. Municipal police departments, federal agencies, and military units all carried it. But then, Smith & Wesson's K-frame revolvers took the market in the late 1960s, and Colt discontinued the Official Police in 1969. That discontinuation created a hard production cutoff that the market is only now beginning to price correctly. The authentication details that matter are specific. Pre-1955 examples carry the Colt Rampant Pony logo on the left grip panel, a detail that disappears from later production. Police-marked examples, department stamps, property markings, or factory-documented agency orders carry a provenance premium that can add 40% to 60% over unmarked examples. The .38 special configuration is by far the most common, but the .22 long rifle target variant produced in small numbers for training use is the configuration driving the highest returns per unit. A documented pre-1960 Official Police with verified police department markings and original grips cleared $1,100 at Rock Island in 2023. While target versions in .22LR in 95% condition are clearing $1,400 to $1,800. If you find one with original box and agency documentation, the ceiling moves significantly higher. The .41 Magnum was supposed to replace the .357 as the American law enforcement standard. That never happened, but the gun built around it became something more valuable because of it. Smith & Wesson introduced the Model 57 in 1964 alongside the .41 Magnum cartridge, which was designed by Elmer Keith and Bill Jordan as a purpose-built law enforcement round, more powerful than the .357, more controllable than the .44 Magnum. The FBI evaluated it. Several departments adopted it briefly, but then the recoil proved too much for qualification training, and the program collapsed before it gained real traction. What that failure created was a production run that never scaled. The Model 57 was built in relatively small numbers compared to the Model 29 and Model 27, and the pinned and recessed examples made before 1982 represent the smallest subset of an already limited production. The N-frame platform the Model 57 sits on is the same frame as the Model 29. But the .41 Magnum bore diameter and cylinder configuration are specific to the Model 57, and parts availability for this caliber has been quietly tightening for years. That scarcity is now showing in auction results. A Model 57 made before 1982 in an 8.375-inch barrel configuration with original presentation case. Cleared $2,100 at Rock Island in 2023. 4-inch examples with original grips and no import markings are clearing $1,600 to $1,900 consistently. Serial numbers in the S prefix range put you inside production from before 1982. This is the Smith & Wesson N-frame that most collectors aren't watching yet. The Model 27 was the first .357 Magnum revolver ever produced. Smith & Wesson built it in 1935 on special order for hunter and writer Phil Sharp, and when it entered commercial production, it carried the highest price tag of any Smith & Wesson revolver in the catalog. But then production economics began stripping features through the 1970s, and by 1978, the checkered top strap, a hand-cut serrated panel running the full length of the frame above the cylinder, was quietly eliminated. That detail is the authentication benchmark that separates early Model 27s from later production. Run your thumb across the top strap of a Model 27. If you feel distinct, sharp checkering cut directly into the steel, you have a Model 27 made before 1978. If it is smooth, you do not. But the barrel length is the configuration that drives the most significant price differential. Smith & Wesson offered the Model 27 in 3.5-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, 6.5-inch, and 8 3/8-inch configurations. The 3.5-inch barrel was always the lowest volume production length, ordered less frequently, stocked less commonly, and discontinued earlier than other configurations. A verified Model 27 made before 1978 in a 3.5-inch barrel with a checkered top strap and original diamond grips cleared $3,200 at Rock Island in 2024. Presentation-cased examples in nearly new condition have crossed $5,000. Serial numbers below the N prefix, running through the S prefix, keep you inside the production window for checkered top straps that ended before 1978. The Model 27 is the gun that created the .357 Magnum category, and the market is finally pricing it accordingly. Most people have never heard of Dan Wesson. That is the entire reason this gun belongs near the top of this list. Daniel B. Wesson, great-grandson of Smith & Wesson co-founder Daniel B. Wesson, left the family company in 1968 and founded Dan Wesson Arms in Monson, Massachusetts. The revolver he built was unlike anything else on the American market. The Model 15 featured a fully interchangeable barrel system, and you could swap barrel lengths using a single wrench with no gunsmithing required. The barrel nut visible at the muzzle end is the authentication detail you're looking for. But then, in 1983, financial difficulties forced the closure of the Monson factory, and American production of the original Dan Wesson design effectively ended. The guns that came after, produced under different ownership in Norwich, New York, are not the same. Monson production Dan Wessons carry a specific proof mark reading Dan Wesson Arms, Monson, Massachusetts, roll marked on the barrel. That marking is your authentication anchor. The Model 15 in .357 Magnum is the most common Monson production configuration, but the complete barrel sets, original pistol with multiple factory barrel lengths, wrench, and case are what the market is responding to most aggressively. A complete Monson production Model 15 with a 4-barrel set and original case cleared $1,400 at Rock Island in 2023. Single-barrel examples in excellent condition are clearing $600 to $900, but that number has moved significantly in 3 years, and the trajectory hasn't flattened. Most people selling these don't know what they have. That window won't stay open. Everything on this list was built after America already had a century of firearms development behind it. This one started something. Smith & Wesson introduced the Model 1 in 1857, the first commercially successful cartridge-firing revolver ever produced in the United States. Before this gun, every revolver on the American market used loose powder and ball or percussion caps. The Model 1 chambered the .22 short rimfire cartridge, a self-contained metallic cartridge, and that single engineering decision changed the entire direction of American firearms development. But then production ran for only 3 years in its first issue configuration, ending in 1860. Approximately 11,000 first issue examples were produced. That number has not changed since 1860, and it never will. The authentication details on a first issue are specific and non-negotiable. The frame is a tip-up design. The barrel hinges upward for loading, a system abandoned in later production. The cylinder is unfluted on the first issue, smooth-sided, with no flutes cut between chambers, a detail that distinguishes it from the second and third issue at a glance. The barrel length is standard at 3.1875 inches, and the finish was either blued or silver-plated over brass frame. Brass frame. That's the material detail most people miss. Later issues moved to iron frames. First issue guns have a distinctly warm golden tone at the frame that iron frame examples never show. Condition matters, but not in the way most people assume. A first issue in poor condition with a functioning action and verifiable serial number is still a historically significant American artifact. Rock Island sold a first issue in fair condition with worn finish and functioning mechanics for $4,200 in 2022. Examples in 80% or better original finish, blued or silver-plated, are clearing $8,000 to $14,000 depending on configuration. A silver-plated first issue with original ivory grips and documented provenance crossed $22,000 at Rock Island in 2023. If you find one of these in an estate, in a drawer, in a collection that hasn't been opened in decades, you are not looking at a curiosity. You are looking at the gun that started American cartridge revolver history. Handle it accordingly. 10 revolvers, all of them built before 1988. All of them moving at auction right now. The one question I want you to answer in the comments: which one is already sitting in your collection? Drop the model and year. I read every one.